Welcome to Northern Goal, the football podcast from the Evening Express and Press and Journal. I'm Ryan Cryle, and joining me today are a host of people. We've got Paul Chalk, Danny Law, Sean Wallace, regular contributors. How are you guys?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Great, thanks, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. All good?
But there's another. We've got with us, she's kindly agreed to join us today, Kelly Forrest, captain of Aberdeen FC Women. She's going to discuss their title triumph, lifted the trophy at the Balmoral Stadium at the weekend, and we're going to look ahead a little bit to the top flight season that they've earned themselves next year. Or, well, I say next year, it's a couple of weeks from now the pre-season starts. But Kelly, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
So, firstly then, it's been an 18-month season, I think, in SWPL2, with all the stop-start nature of COVID. It's been full of ups and downs for the players as well. I think I've seen you say that, and we've done a couple of pieces with various members of the squad over this, what feels like a pretty prolonged campaign. But you must be elated to finally get over the line, have won the title, have earned promotion. Delighted, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it's been, a long season, 18 months with, probably, a lot of stop-starts as well, and, mentally trying to keep everyone active and engaged. Even when we've not had football, it's been a big challenge. So yeah, as much as it was a celebration, it was personally quite a relief as well. It's been not only this season, but the last couple of years trying to get us back up to SWPL1. So yeah, great feeling, but probably not too much time off till we start again. As you say, it's only a couple of weeks, but yeah, great weekend and great celebrations.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously you beat Boroughmuir Thistle at the weekend at the Balmoral Stadium, which I understand is going to be your home next term. We'll get into that in a minute. But the celebrations, it was a Sunday. You always play on a Sunday. Was it a case of most of the squad having the Monday off?
Yeah, definitely. We obviously, with COVID as well, it's been quite difficult. We were obviously planning on going out and getting some form of celebration when we bet Dundee United and sealed, the league victory. But we just decided to stay patient and we went out for a meal on Sunday night, and yeah, we had Monday off. A few sore heads yesterday from what I was hearing.
No, good, richly deserved. So that's 2 consecutive promotions, and you were with the team in Division 1 North. Since the club's kind of, I think 3 years ago, come under Aberdeen FC proper. Emma Hunter was in charge. Obviously, there's been a couple other coaches involved along the way as well. But what do you think's changed over the last couple of years that's, almost fostered this winning mentality, this total drive to success that you've had?
I think there's a couple of things. I think obviously Aberdeen taking over is massive. When they came in at a time when we were pretty down in the dumps, we'd gone through back-to-back demotion. And to be fair to the squad that went through that, it was kind of like the aftermath of a great run prior to that as well. So Aberdeen came in after our back-to-back demotion, and I guess they just created this, massive opportunity for girls. And for us older ones, it was good to see that eventually, we were getting proper buy-in from the club, and then all the resources that came with that. And they set an expectation on us as a club, and with that, we knew that if we got back up to SWPL1, I think even more will come from that, and that was what the club said. So they set the objective, and they were pretty, clear about what they expected of us. But equally, as I say, they were a massive influence in that. But there was a group of us as well that were really deflated after the demotion. So, we knew that, the club deserved to be, the expectation always on Aberdeen, even before the club took over. We as a group of girls had played SWPL1, and so to be, 2 leagues below was just so bizarre. And for me personally, I can't speak about the other older ones, but I know they are of the same opinion. We just wanted to get everyone back to top level football. So kind of a couple elements there that made the difference.
So what's your kind of footballing journey been personally, Kelly? You've obviously been with Aberdeen for a while, but have you always been with them, or have you played for other clubs?
Well, I'm actually originally from Edinburgh, so I played youth football in Edinburgh for Hibs under-17s, and then I was kind of pushed more by my family just to focus on university. So I moved up to Aberdeen for uni, and I played uni football there, and had I was club captain at Aberdeen Uni for a while, and then I did one spell at Aberdeen, probably about 10 years ago now, for a couple of years. We won a League Cup. I think that was the last silverware before these recent two, so that was good. And then I actually worked away abroad in Malaysia for a year, so stepped away from football, and then I came back and did a second spell with Aberdeen under Alan Smith and Vicky Patterson, and then another 2 seasons under Stefan, and then Emma came in after that. So all been with Aberdeen at top level, really.
Obviously, there's been some pretty exciting young players that you've been teammates with this season and the last couple of seasons, I suppose. Other players that have come in, like Francesca Ogilvie and stuff, that maybe necessarily haven't come through the Aberdeen system. But how strong is the squad now? Is it as talented a squad as you've played with, would you say?
Yeah, different, very different. You know, the years before when I was at Aberdeen, there was a lot of older, experienced players, equally very good. I think the exciting thing about this team is, you know, they've got loads of years left in them, and they're very, very good. You know, there's a group of like 5 or 6 of them. For me, it's almost like that kind of old Man U class of '99. You know, they're just you can tell they're going to be, if they stick to how they're playing on the pitch and maintain that attitude, they've got a really bright future ahead of them. I think they're exciting to watch at training and in games. And yeah, like I think like Francesca, she's obviously come through Cove, and you know, it's good to see players coming from different areas. And Aberdeen's got a big pool. You know, that's one good thing, one good position we're in. There's a lot of youth that we can bring through without the risk of them potentially being attracted to other big clubs. You know, maybe Forfar, but it's still quite a bit to travel for the girls. So we would want to be the big attraction in the north.
So obviously it's been because of the way things have worked with SWPL2 and SWPL1 in terms of the seasons being able to continue after COVID, and obviously the top flight went first and then SWPL2 has just concluded the weekend. It means you've got this strange off season that's only about 2 weeks long. Is that, given what you've achieved and you've got a top flight season to look forward to, do you mind that much that you've only got this short holiday this summer?
To be honest, it takes us away from doing a crazy pre-season, so I'm not really complaining in that respect. And I guess, you know, nothing's going to be more challenging than the year we've had. And I think the good thing about this team is we've just got on with the job. You know, it would have been nicer probably to get a bit of a longer break, but it is what it is. And I mean, to have football back is the main thing. I don't think I've ever gone so long without playing football in my whole career as to what I did during, you know, the January to May time this year. It was just really bizarre having 5 months of no games. So I'm not complaining as a whole, but it is, the 2 weeks will just fly by. But yeah, as long as I'm not doing a bleep test again, I'll be fine.
This is the bit where I ask you what Aberdeen women can achieve in SWPL1 next season. Are you willing to give any predictions? Obviously, it must be a real excitement to think of the prospect of like Glasgow City and teams like that coming to the Balmoral Stadium, hopefully in front of as many fans as want to go. You know, you've got quite a hardy band of Don supporters that won't have much to do on a Sunday because the Dons first team will be playing on the Saturday. So I mean, it could be a big draw.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, in terms of like forecasting how I think we're going to do it, I was obviously watching SWPL1, and you've got Glasgow City, Rangers, Celtic, who are, you know, either in full time or, you know, paying players to an extent. So, yeah, really exciting. And obviously the coverage as well from BBC Alba is great. But I think from watching, you know, some of the teams in the lower that finished in the bottom half of the table for SWPL1, I think we'd be able to put in and definitely compete with them. And I think that's our expectations, is to not just go up and be a team to survive, but to actually, you know, to challenge for at least the lower half of that league. And to an extent, when I feel like we've been under a lot of pressure the last 2 years, since Aberdeen set the objective for us to get back up. And while I'm not saying that we're completely free of pressure, but we'll definitely feel a slightly more relaxed and look forward to the challenge, as opposed to feeling like we have to get promoted or we have to win every game. And that pressure's been pretty intense for us, so I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest.
And playing at the Balmoral Stadium. Excited about that.
Yeah, totally. I was actually saying that to a couple of people after the game on Sunday. I forgot actually how good a setup it is. Really well organised. It's got great facilities as a whole. Got good kind of even the function area up the stairs. That's important for us, that we can use for pre-match discussions. And although we weren't in the changing rooms because of COVID on Sunday, I've been in them before, and it's a really, really excellent facility, especially for our league.
Danny?
Yeah, Kelly, at the start of the season in SWPL 2, did you expect to win the league as convincingly as you did? Because there are obviously quite a lot of very good teams, as we saw towards the end of the season in that league.
To be honest, no. Again, that was something I was speaking about just at our meal on Sunday night, was, we've won that league by 10 points. If someone said that to me at the start of the season, I would, as I said, I think you're being a wee bit ambitious. And we were written off by a number of podcasts. A lot of people predicted us to finish at the near the bottom of the league. So, but our expectations as a team were to get promoted, but to win by 10 points, no. So I'm absolutely delighted that we've done so. We've done so with conviction, and that's obviously great for us in terms of confidence going up to SWPL 1. It's a great league, as you say. There's, Hamilton, Partick Thistle, Dundee United all tested us at different times in the season. But I feel like we did really well before Christmas, travelling away to Glasgow, getting really big wins away from home, albeit some just 1-0s. I think we came back after the long break, and we were in a really good position.
Okay. Well, we don't write off North East teams on this podcast, so I will predict that Aberdeen Women will win SWPL 1 next season. Okay, but Kelly, thank you very much again for joining us. Today we'll let you go. We've got a few other things to discuss, so after the break we'll get started with Christian Ramirez and Aberdeen.
There is great pride in being a Scotland supporter. Win, lose or draw, the saltire flies, the songs are sung, the Hampden roar will be heard. But what was it like in the old days? The days of the huge crowds in the vast Hampden Bowl before it was all seated. If you're old enough, you'll remember. In our new book, We Had a Dream, Scotland Internationals in the Black and White Era, will remind you of those great days. If you're younger, this is the history. This is what the great days looked like. Those days are gone now, but these memories are oh so dearly held. There are photos in this book that will stir the dark blue heart. Photos of Bremner, Baxter, Law and Johnston in the days when they strode the Hampden turf before crowds of 120 or 130,000 fans. If you remember those days, this book will take you back to those days. If you want to know what it means to be a Scotland supporter, then you'll need this book to show you, not just tell you, what it means to be a Scotland supporter. As one of our podcast listeners, you can get an exclusive 15% discount on We Had a Dream at dcthomsonshop.co.uk using the code DREAM15 at checkout. That's DREAM15 at the checkout of dcthomsonshop.co.uk. Check the episode notes for details and terms. Was like us.
Okay, so I would say it's been a relatively quiet week. I'm not sure if you guys will agree, but for Aberdeen this week, I suppose the big thing we got the first interview, the club interview. We are yet to speak to him yet, with Christian Ramirez, the signing from America. I thought it was pretty heartening, Sean. I'm not sure if you agree again, that he seems pretty keen to be here. Like, this has kind of been a dream for him, and, talks a good game, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I was very impressed with his interview. What's clear from what Ramirez is saying is that he's 30-year-old, but he's not coming to Aberdeen to wind down his career. He's very much coming here to make an impact. And I mean, he was a goal-scoring hero at Minnesota, so much so that they called him Superman, and he looks very focused that he intends to come to Aberdeen to be a goal-scoring hero here. And I said last week as well, from talking to his former coaches and managers, I talked to another one last night, his coach at Striker FC in California, all the way from when he was 12 up to 20, and he was yet again absolutely glowing in his praise of Ramirez, not just as a natural goal scorer, but his character. I think that came shining through is the character of Ramirez, someone who is completely committed and focused to being a success and will run through a brick wall for Aberdeen and will give everything. So I'm very, very excited. And another thing that I liked about his interview was that he seems to be someone that is going to immerse himself into the culture of Aberdeen and the Granite City. He talked about how, although he is training with Aberdeen, he's got the elite sportsman's exemption to come out of the quarantine to train. And whilst in his quarantine, he's watched the documentary on Netflix about Sir Alex Ferguson. He's looked into the history of the club. And I think he ticks all the boxes. I mean, his track record is that he's a proven goal scorer. He's a hard worker, committed, and he has got all the attributes required to be a fan's favourite. And if the goals come, that will definitely see him become a fan's favourite.
Yeah, I also really like the fact that he seems, determined to learn as much as he can about the Dons and about the club. And it was a really quite an interesting interview for the first one of him at the club. I mean, he obviously talks a good game, and it'll be about backing that up. And I mean, from the YouTube clips that I've seen of him, he looks really good. But I mean, we've seen a lot of good players in the past that have looked very good on YouTube, and that's kind of not transpired to how good they are. But he does look like he's technically very good and will add something different. I mean, he also retweets our stories as well, so we already like him. But I think it is an exciting signing. I always think you get quite a good idea with strikers quite early on if they're going to work out or not. I mean, last season I thought that Fraser Hornby was going to be a really shrewd acquisition. I thought that had the makings of a very good Aberdeen signing, but it didn't work out. And I think you could see early on that was probably going to be the case. But I think with strikers, you tend to find out that after 5 or 10 games, you get a good idea if this is going to be someone that is going to be a hit or a miss. I guess the one exception that I guess sort of springs to mind is probably Sam Cosgrove, who looked kind of overpriced at £15,000 when he first came to Aberdeen and then turned into a world beater. But I'm like Sean, I've got quite high hopes for Ramirez because of hearing him talk and also hearing what the other coaches that he's had in the past have said about him as well. So the bar's high, but hopefully he'll be able to deliver.
Should be noted also before you all email in that the Sir Alex Ferguson documentary, if we are talking about Sir Alex Ferguson, Never Give In, is actually on Amazon Prime, not on Netflix.
Okay.
So, Sean, what are we still expecting transfer wise at Pittodrie? I know that the thinking is that we're still needing another striker, and I think Stephen Glass has said that himself, that his hopes are that he can get another striker in, but are they going to be adding to the defence? What's still to come?
Well, as you said, Stephen Glass has indicated that the majority of his summer transfer work has been done. But, I mean, you can't go into a new campaign where you're fighting on two fronts, Europe and domestically, with just two senior strikers. So there's got to be another striker coming in. I think defensively there needs to be another centre-back as well. I think that's a minimum requirement going forward. And midfield, they're okay. I mean, people seem to forget that Funzo Ojo's back. He's come back from his loan spell at Wigan.
How could we?
And regardless of what people think about Funzo, I thought, particularly in the first half of his debut season at Aberdeen. I thought he looked good. Trailed off towards the end of that, but I mean, under the right manager and the right circumstances, Funso could be a strong player for Aberdeen going forward. Dylan McGeoch, I mean, towards the end of last season, I thought he was beginning to show what he is capable of and what people thought he could bring to Aberdeen when he was initially signed. But definitely a defender, maybe another fullback, a bit light there. But definitely needs to be a couple more signings coming in, ideally before they play BK Häcken in Europe.
The other thing, and I was speaking to Willie Miller about this yesterday, that we've still got to find out is who the new head of recruitment at the club's going to be, which is obviously something that ties in to transfers and, you know, finding the right talent that Stephen Glass needs, because he can't do it all himself. I mean, if there isn't a head of recruitment, you're kind of relying on people's contacts and players that are put forward, and that's not really the way to do it, I suppose. That's not the way to unearth these gems. Tommy Johnson, he's presumably the front runner. He's left Blackpool. I think they were undergoing their own restructuring, but he's been linked to the job. How crucial is it that they get somebody in place who's, I maybe don't want to say this, but got the contacts down in England where there's so many clubs and so many players, and, you know, there's a lot of competition for that talent, to somebody that's, you know, able to act quickly and get them signed up to Aberdeen.
It's absolutely fundamental to Aberdeen going forward to have a strong head of recruitment. I mean, Russ Richardson, he's departed the club now, but I don't think you can underestimate what he brought to Aberdeen during his time there. I mean, Danny was talking about Sam Cosgrove. He was a player that Russ Richardson highlighted, and they went on to make a couple of £1 million profit on him. Well, nearly 3 million. And he delivered the goals. So it just shows that if you've got someone with the connections, particularly down south, then it can yield long-term benefits. And as you said, Stephen Glass can't do it all himself. He needs someone there who knows the market and can get players, ideally players on the cheap that they can develop and then sell at a substantial profit.
Should be noted that Aberdeen are playing a pre-season friendly. I think maybe their first pre-season friendly this coming week. They're supposed to be playing Inverness Cali Thistle, one of our other teams, behind closed doors. So we might be able to find out what happens in that one. But next up, we will move on to, well, two more of our teams playing each other in a friendly. Elgin City v Ross County, which took place at the weekend. Okay, so our expert for this one is Paul Chalk, who was at the game at Borough Briggs. Malky Mackay's first game in charge of Ross County. How did it go, Paul?
Expert by default, just by being there. But I tell you, right, no, it was a really positive game for Ross County, and Malky was delighted just to get this game under his belt and the players get a run out. Now, on the eve of the game, I thought I would just jot down what kind of squad would be travelling to Elgin, because with 10 first-team players been let go, of course, on the week that Malky came in, including Ian Vigurs and Michael Gardine and Jason Naismith, Ross Draper, guys of that calibre, who was left. But a number of young players were left, and in fact, the starting 11 that lined up against Elgin were, they wouldn't have actually looked too much out of place from the team that kept County up at the end of the Premiership season, of course, under John Hughes. So a lot of experience within the ranks and a number of young players coming through. But Malky was delighted that his signings got up and running as well with goals. The standout of the afternoon for me was Ross Callaghan, who really pulled the strings. He was in the heart of everything good that Ross County were about. Scored 2 goals, although Jordan White would maybe say that he got a touch with the first one. It was one of them that might have got off the big strike in the way in. But 2 for Callaghan, and of course a lot of energy about the team, which was something that I spoke to Malky about afterwards, and he was delighted that the fact, sometimes players can take a wee bit of time to get up and running, and albeit it was against an Elgin team that are missing a good number of players. Gavin Price, the Elgin boss, stressing that they were maybe 6 players shy of what they would have been normally due to COVID at the club. It was a good exercise for both. It was as good as it could be for Elgin, and although the result was 5-0 to County, it was only 1-0 at half-time, and it was only in the second half that the scoreline ran away from Elgin. And I know that Gavin spoke to Andy on Friday saying even ahead of the game, the scoreline didn't matter. It's really about getting the fitness up, as it always is. And Elgin this Tuesday, as we speak, they play Strathspey down the road in a closed door game that will get more minutes into the belt. From a county point of view, though, yep, all good, but no game this week for Ross County, and a developing story, in fact, to tell you if you want me to continue with that, Ryan.
Yes, please do. Paul, I think I know what you're going to say, but yes, go.
And that's it, yeah. Just while we come onto the pod, breaking news from Ross County, a COVID-19 update that says that a number of Ross County players and coaching staff have tested positive for COVID-19. As a precaution, the club has temporarily suspended football operations to prevent any further spread of the virus. So we'll obviously get more on that and report that over the coming days. But Ross County, their next fixture is meant to be in the Premier Sports Cup this Saturday away to Forfar Athletic. So we'll see how long they are out of business for. They had no matches prepared for this week. Malky didn't want another game because they were low in numbers anyway. But as I say, their opponents at the weekend were Elgin, who had only just come back from 10 days out of football operations themselves. A number of their players had contracted COVID, including Craig Little, who we spoke to after the game as well. So, and it was just reading today the column from Duncan Shearer in the P&J where he highlights the fact that COVID has been such a problem, and day after day. Levels from the North Caledonian at the end of the season right through to Highland League clubs preparing, and now up to the Premiership with Ross County. COVID is continuing to be a problem, and Elgin only came out of their 10-day period last week, and but everyone was all clear. The tests were all clear for both clubs, and there was no threat to that fixture at the weekend. But the previous week I was at Forres with Forres Cali Thistle, and there were positive cases following on from that one. So in the Murray and in the Highland area, it certainly is becoming an issue that I can see more games being called off. But in terms of Ross County right now, it's not what they need ahead of the Cup games starting this weekend down at Forfar. So we'll see if that does impact on that match this weekend. And of course, we'll be reporting that as we go on.
As you say, Paul, it's going to be interesting going into the new season. Every time there's a positive COVID test, or somebody in a team, knows somebody that's, tested or been in contact with somebody that's tested positive, like what that means for the fixtures, because it could be chaos. But I mean, we'll see how that all unfolds over the course of the season. Also, before we move on to speaking of the Premier Sports Cup proper slightly later on, I should say that if Ross County's game is off this weekend, then we told you so, and if it goes ahead, we told you so. So just delete as appropriate. One thing I wanted to say, Paul, was County have obviously made a couple of new signings that weren't on show the weekend. They've got Jake Vocals from Southampton. They also signed Alexander Robertson from Manchester City last night. That's a fullback and a midfielder, both with Premier League experience down in England. Some fans might not like Malky Mackay's past, but his contacts are certainly not in doubt.
Yeah, absolutely, Ryan. Yeah, and I noticed first thing this morning a wee bit of reaction from the Ross County fans on the back of that. Say what you like about Malky Mackay, and the county fans have certainly done that, but I think now's time to just let him get on with his job and see what he delivers, and those contacts are going to be absolutely crucial. I mean, to get to players from English Premier League clubs up here on season-long loans is terrific work. And the left-back, Jake Vokins, that came in at the end of the week there, wasn't quite clear for the Elgin game in terms of international clearance, but he was set to be involved this week. So as soon as County are clear of their COVID issues, we could expect to see him. Of course, the left back was probably the one role that Ross County were crying out for to be filled, with no obvious guy to fill that position since Carl Tremarco hung up his boots. Of course, Carl's gone on to be the head of youth at Ross County, but the one that we've got here, of course, that came in last night from Manchester City, Alexander Robertson, an 18-year-old who's got youth international experience with England, and Malky Mackay really excited by this loan move. Say what you like, if you could get two guys in, whether they've got limited first team experience, but from English Premier League clubs, that's got to be good in terms of they'll be up here looking to make an impact. The Ross County games, when they're up against the likes of the Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen, more likely to be on TV. So there's the scope there that these players, they might be based in the north of Scotland, but playing in the Premiership, that will give them the platform to come into the team, hold down that place and really kick on. But Malky this week speaking very highly of the young talent there. He does admit that, I think there were 5 youngsters included in the team at Elgin at the weekend, and they really excited Malky in terms of what they can offer, their vision and their hard work. He said, if you're a player at Ross County, you won't be part of the plans unless you work hard, but the young players have fitted in really well and they don't look out of place. So all around, yeah, it's been a good week until this COVID release, but I think the Ross County fans should really be excited, and I think they'll be looking forward to this Premier Sports Cup when it does get up and running. And I think, like many clubs, they'll use this competition as part of their pre-season, but I think Ross County should look forward with plenty of optimism after a really encouraging start at Elgin.
COVID's effects over the weekend weren't just limited to, well, it wasn't over the weekend at Ross County, but I mean, COVID clearly played a hand in quite a few friendlies involving Highland League clubs being called off. Peterhead tried to get their annual doubleheader played. They managed to play Inverurie Locos on the Saturday, I think beating them 2-1. But Turriff against Peterhead, Turriff had also played on the Saturday. That was Turriff against Peterhead was meant to be on the Sunday, but it was called off because of COVID. There were, of course, quite a few friendlies involving Highland League clubs and junior sides completed. But yes, next we will move on to the Premier Sports Cup, which kicks off this weekend. A few teams involved, so we'll have to chat through all of those fixtures. Okay, so the 2021-22 season officially gets underway for a lot of our teams. This weekend, fixtures on Saturday include Cove Rangers against Stirling Albion, Elgin City against Arbroath, Forfar Athletic against Ross County, although there's a bit of an asterisk on that one now, Montrose against Brora Rangers, and Peterhead against Hearts. Guys, it feels, I don't know what your guys' opinion is, but it feels like to me that it's all rolled around very quickly. Danny?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Although I don't know about everyone else, but I'm quite a big fan of this competition. I quite like the group format of it. I like the fact that that all of our kind of local teams are playing at least one of the big teams in their group. I mean, I think the only negative with this competition is that the groups tend to be quite similar every year, because they've only got so many teams and because they split them up into north and south. But I know that the teams would prefer to do that rather than have traveling down a few times for different games. But I like it. It's lots of derbies. There's always shocks at this stage of the season because generally all the teams are kind of getting ready and most of them are using it as kind of a competitive games, but also with us sort of as preparation really for the start of the season in earnest. But yeah, I'm quite a big fan of it. I know that I think for many football fans are probably a bit mixed on it. But I think from our perspective, aside from trying to get the rotas sorted for covering all the games and everything, but no, I like it. It's quite good. It feels like the start of the season.
Chalky, where do the upsets potentially lie this weekend, and what teams of our patch? I'm looking at teams like Peterhead, maybe who are playing Hearts at home. What teams do you think are maybe potentially gonna, be up against it this weekend?
Yeah, really intriguing groups, and the Peterhead Hearts is a fascinating one to start with as well. And I know Peterhead are through at Inverness next Tuesday, which will be Cally Thistle's first involvement in the competition. And Danny's quite right in that I think Cally Thistle will be sick of the sight of Hearts yet again, only just getting rid of them from the championship. They've been pitched in against them once more in this competition that used to be known as the Tunnocks Cup last season. Of course, the Cally Jags that that getting mixed up with my comps here, of course. But
no, it's a Betfred Cup last season.
That's the Betfred, that's right. Yes. So, but from a Peterhead point of view, they'll be like anyone else looking to get off to a good start. That Hearts is won't fancy a trip north after being at Brora last year and been stung by that one. Robbie Nielsen's still in charge of the Jambos, who thought he'd still be there after what happened at Dudgeon Park that night, and the Hearts fans have still to really be convinced by Robbie despite that title win last year. But I'm from my point of view as well, looking at this Arbroath, Dick Campbell's Arbroath coming to Elgin will be a good one as well, because I think what Dick Campbell achieves at Arbroath year in, year out is quite incredible, that they are still competing at championship level because he can still attract top quality players. But Elgin, they have got their eyes firmly fixed on the 31st of the month when they kick off against Stranraer in League Two. But it's a great preparation for Elgin, who are in also with East Fife and Dundee United and Kelsey Hearts, of course, who have just come up and will be main title challengers to them in League Two. So that's a good one. You look at Brora, staying in the north as well. They've got Dundee up in the Premiership, Forfar, Montrose and Ross County. So that's a cracking group in Group C. So, there will be upsets along the way, certainly. And as things stand, I'll be heading to Forfar unless we hear otherwise. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's a cracking tournament as well. I was just, because normally this time of year it'd just be meaningless friendlies, part of the build-up to the new season. But now we've got meaningful games, competitive matches, and it throws up the Peterhead Cove Rangers match, which will be a cracker as well. You
touched on Tuesday, Chalky, and you mentioned there, Cove Rangers. Sean, Cove have obviously got Hearts at the Balmoral Stadium starting next week. We'll have recorded another pod by then, I'm sure, but I think that one's on TV, so that's a big game again for the Aberdeen side. I think that's the same night that Dundee also host Brora, so plenty to look forward to in the coming weeks, and that's with teams like Aberdeen not even back in action yet. You did mention the Tunnocks Cup, though, Chalky, and it should be stated that they now, is it the SPFL Trust Trophy, the draw for the first and second round of that, I think, or perhaps the second and third round, I think it's the first and second, is being made this afternoon, so we will know who our teams are facing in that later on today. But I think that is everything for this week's episode of Northern Goal. Thanks go, of course, to Kelly Forrest for joining us earlier on, and good luck to Aberdeen women next season. And of course, I'm so grateful to Sean, Danny and Paul for joining me today. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Ryan.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Ryan.
If you've enjoyed this week's episode of Northern Goal, you can email us at northerngoal@dctmedia.co.uk. You can like and subscribe on your favourite podcast app. And finally, all that remains to be said for the next week is Forza Azzurri. Don't let them win it. Cheers. Hope you loved the episode, and if you did, we'd be grateful if you could leave us a review or rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to pick up your copies of the Press and Journal and Evening Express every day for the best football writing and analysis in the North.